A family's anguish. A large-scale police search. A man who should have been locked up for good. What happened to Leah Croucher? Welcome to Vanished Voices UK, your new favourite spot for curious missing persons cases, true crime stories, and in-depth investigations. The tragic story of Leah Croucher. The failure to protect society from a monster. On the 15th of February 2019, 19-year-old Leah Croucher vanished during her 2-mile walk to work in Milton Keynes. 3.5 years later, her remains were found nearby, and a convicted sex offender emerged as the prime suspect. This is her story. Please be aware that some of the discussions in this video include details of sexual assault. Leah Croucher was born in 1999 and lived with her family in Emerson Valley, a residential suburb of Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire, England. She was the middle child of Claire and John Croucher and had an older brother Hayden and a younger sister Jade. By those closest to her, Leah was described as a quiet, kind, intelligent and highly disciplined person. She had a reserved personality and preferred a small, close circle of friends. Her mother described her as someone who didn't enjoy socialising in pubs or clubs and was not a typical teenager. Leah didn't drink alcohol or didn't smoke and was known to spend much of her time reading or training. One of Leah's defining passions was martial arts. From a young age, she excelled in taekwondo. She was a second Dan black belt, a national and European champion in the world of taekwondo. Second Dan means that she was more advanced in her techniques, leadership and responsibility. A family friend later described her as tiny but mighty. Leah worked full-time as an administrative assistant for a direct debit collection agency called DFC, based at Knowlhill, just a short walk from her home. She was considered reliable, punctual and focused. She lived a structured life, rising early, walking to work and rarely deviating from routine. At the time of her disappearance, Leah was 19 years old. She had never gone missing before and was not known to have any mental health issues or risky behaviours. Her parents later said that there were no signs that she was planning on leaving home, and nothing about her behaviour in the days prior raised any alarm. On the evening of Thursday the 14th of February 2019, Leah was at her home with her family. There was nothing unusual about her behaviour. She was last seen by her parents at approximately 10 PM when she said goodnight and went to her bedroom. The following morning on Friday the 15th of February, Leah was expected to walk to her workplace located in the Knowlhill area, about 2 miles away. At 8 AM, Leah left her home dressed in black jeans, a black coat and black Converse trainers. She was carrying a small black rucksack. As always, she didn't drive or take public transport, she walked. At 8:16 AM, she was captured on private CCTV walking along Buzzercott Lane in Furzton, consistent with her usual route. This is the last confirmed sighting of Leah. Just over 18 minutes later at 8:34 AM, her mobile phone disconnected from the network. It has never reconnected since, and the phone has never been recovered. At her workplace, Leah was due to start her shift at 9 AM, but she never arrived. Her employer attempted to contact her without success. Later that morning, between 9:30 AM and 11:15 AM, 2 witnesses independently reported seeing a young woman visibly distressed near Furzton Lake, not far from where Leah had last been seen. One described her as crying and walking slowly. Despite a major appeal, this individual was never conclusively identified. That evening, Leah's family reported her missing to Thames Valley Police after she failed to return home or contact anyone. From that moment, a missing person inquiry was launched. Her disappearance was treated as highly unusual and deeply concerning. As mentioned previously, Leah's parents reported her missing on the evening of the 15th of February after she failed to arrive at work or make contact later that evening. The next day, on the 16th of February, Thames Valley Police released Leah's last known CCTV images and made an urgent appeal for information. Between the 18th and 25th of February, specialist search teams combed Furzton Lake by boat, drone, dive unit and shoreline fingertip searches. On the 9th of October 2019, officers launched a 2-week search of the Blue Lagoon Nature Reserve in Bletchley using divers, police marine units, drones and search dogs. No items linking Leah to the site were found. By the end of October 2019, officers had visited more than 4,000 homes in Milton Keynes, reviewed more than 1,200 hours of CCTV, and deployed helicopters, drones, marine units, dive teams, and licensed search officers across multiple lakes and parks. Nothing of evidential significance was recovered. Another extremely sad event happened on the 16th of November 2019. Leah Croucher, Leah's 24-year-old half-brother, died by suicide. 2 days earlier, on the 14th of November, police had been called to his flat in Milton Keynes over concerns for his welfare, and paramedics transferred him to Milton Keynes University Hospital. Despite treatment, he was found deceased 2 days later. At an inquest, senior coroner Tom Osborne recorded a verdict of suicide, noting that Hayden suffered from severe clinical depression and anxiety. He had previously attempted to take his own life, and was begging for help in the months following Leah's disappearance. The coroner also found that no formal discharge plan or discussion of inpatient admission had been documented, contributing to the tragic outcome. On the 14th of February 2020, on the first anniversary of Leah's disappearance, Thames Valley Police renewed their appeal across national media and offered an initial reward of £10,000 for information regarding Leah's disappearance. On the 23rd of March 2021, 2 anonymous donors doubled the reward to £20,000. Despite a fantastic public response, including 20 new reports of potential information, the force had no confirmed sightings or breakthroughs at that time. In March 2022, police reissued CCTV stills and renewed the community appeal, expressing optimism that someone, somewhere, held the crucial piece of information. Throughout 2019 to 2022, the missing person inquiry remained open and active. Every tip-off, no matter how small, was logged and investigated. But despite exhaustive searches of lakes, parks, homes and CCTV networks, no sign of Leah or her belongings emerged until October 2022. On the 10th of October 2022, more than 3 years after Leah's disappearance, Thames Valley Police received a tip-off about a foul smell emanating from an empty house on Lockspear Drive in Furzton. This was less than a mile from Leah's last known location. A maintenance worker had been called to investigate a drainage issue when he alerted officers to the odour. Inside the attic space, search teams discovered Leah's small black rucksack, other personal possessions, and human remains concealed in plastic bags. 2 days later, on the 12th of October 2022, Thames Valley Police formally launched a murder inquiry into Leah's death. Detectives confirmed that the personal items and remains found at the property were being treated as evidence in a homicide investigation. On the 14th of October 2022, during a press conference, the force named Neil Maxwell, a 49-year-old convicted sex offender employed as a handyman at the address, as their prime suspect. Maxwell was the only person with access to the house at the time that Leah vanished. Maxwell took his own life in April 2019. He hung himself in a bike shed at Mainstay Court near Campbell Park, shortly after becoming wanted for a sexual assault in the area. The discovery of Leah's body, although extremely tragic, finally provided the breakthrough in Leah's case, moving it from a missing person search to a confirmed homicide investigation. On the 19th of June 2024, Senior Coroner Tom Osborne presided over the inquest into Leah's death at Milton Keynes Coroner's Court. He concluded that Leah was unlawfully killed by Neil Maxwell on or around the 15th of February 2019, likely as the result of an unwarranted sexual attack. Due to the advanced decomposition of the remains, the coroner stated that the precise cause of death could not be determined. Her identity was confirmed through dental records. Detective Superintendent Kevin Brown gave evidence that, on the balance of probabilities, Maxwell was Leah's killer. He told the court that had Maxwell been alive, police would have approached the Crown Prosecution Service for their advice around charging, and that his professional assessment was that Leah most likely died very close to the day that she went missing. Coroner Osborne identified multiple systemic failures. Despite a 1998 rape conviction and further child sex offences in 2002, Maxwell was downgraded to medium risk by probation in 2018. This classification did not trigger the highest level of oversight or multi-agency monitoring. Between January and April 2019, Maxwell failed to attend multiple probation meetings. Each non-attendance should have prompted an immediate recall to prison, but these breaches went unflagged and unaddressed. The probation database Visor, designed to alert probation officers and police to high-risk offenders, was used inconsistently. Key details of Maxwell's offences and his 2018 community sentence were not fully recorded, leaving other agencies unaware of his full profile. At the time, local probation teams were managing caseloads well above recommended levels. This stretched resources and contributed to delays in following up on risk assessments and breach protocols. While Osborne did not attribute these failings as a direct cause of Leah's death, he warned that without urgent reforms to risk assessment, probation enforcement and interagency communication, similar tragedies could reoccur. This analysis underscores how multiple layers of procedural breakdown allowed a dangerous offender to remain at large, tragically culminating in Leah's murder. The inquest verdict not only provided Leah's family with formal closure on the manner of her death, but also delivered a stark call for systemic change in the supervision of convicted sex offenders. As discussed previously, the prime suspect in Leah Croucher's murder, Neil Maxwell, was a 49-year-old convicted sex offender whose offences date back more than 20 years. His full criminal history, confirmed by court records and police statements, is as follows. In 1998, Maxwell was convicted of raping a child and received a custodial sentence of 12 months. This conviction also placed him on the sex offenders register. In 2002, he was found guilty of 3 separate sexual offences against a girl under 16, and of failing to notify authorities of a change of name or address. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison. In the early hours of New Year's Day 2009, Maxwell raped a woman in Datchet, Berkshire. He received a prison term of 4 years and 10 months. In February 2018, Maxwell pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting an adult woman in Milton Keynes. He was given a community order with 200 hours of unpaid work after serving time on remand. Following a broad daylight attack in Newport Pagnell, Bedfordshire Police issued a warrant for Maxwell's arrest in November 2018. This case was transferred to Thames Valley Police on the 29th of November 2018. Court records list an additional conviction for engaging in sexual activity with a minor. No further details on sentence length are publicly available. During the November 2018 manhunt, officers made 18 separate attempts to arrest Maxwell. He repeatedly evaded capture by using false identities, switching phones and vehicles, and altering his appearance, including growing a beard and losing weight. Maxwell worked as a handyman at the Furzton property on Locksbeard Drive from November 2018 until his death. He was the only person with keys to that house, the very location where Leah's remains were later discovered. His suicide meant that he was never formally charged with Leah's murder. This record demonstrates a persistent pattern of predatory behaviour and multiple systemic failures in monitoring and apprehending Maxwell. It truly disgusts me how animals like Maxwell are allowed to be part of a society, sharing freedoms that the rest of us have, while posing as a continual risk to women and young girls. Despite a major inquiry, several questions remain unanswered in Leah Croucher's case. Why did it take nearly 4 years to find her body? Leah's body and personal effects were hidden in the loft of a property on Locksbeard Drive, less than a mile from her last known CCTV sighting. How her body remained completely undetected is still unclear. Neil Maxwell was the only person with keys to the Furzton property. How he was able to use that access over several months without detection, especially given his status as a medium-risk offender, this further exposes gaps in both police and probation monitoring. The Visor system, intended to share offender risk information between agencies, failed to flag Maxwell's multiple missed appointments and his November 2018 warrant. Could enhanced data sharing protocols have enabled earlier intervention? Why were there so many mistakes and failures to apprehend such a dangerous individual? Surely Maxwell would have been a high priority target for arrest, given his long list of disgusting crimes. So how was he able to move around undetected so easily and continue to offend? Why was he even free? He was clearly an extremely depraved and dangerous man. The following theories were discussed by Leah's family, the public, and commentators at the time. They remain unproven and are presented here for context only. Leah's parents later revealed she may have been involved in a clandestine relationship with an older, possibly married man known only as X. They warned her against seeing him after discovering she had booked a hotel room on the 3rd of February 2019, only for CCTV to show that she never checked in. Some speculated Leah may have run away of her own accord, hoping to start a new life with this person. From the outset, investigators considered that Leah, walking alone along her familiar 2-mile route, could have been targeted by a stranger intent on sexual violence. This theory aligns with the coroner's later finding that Leah was likely the victim of an unwarranted sexual attack, although no eyewitness or forensic evidence confirmed the attacker's identity at the time. Given Leah disappeared in broad daylight and her phone went offline at 8:34 AM, some suggested her abductor knew the area intimately, potentially someone who worked on or lived near her route. Neighbours reported seeing a handyman at the Furzton property, but without knowing his full criminal background, they didn't suspect him until years later. Multiple witnesses between 9:30 AM and 11:15 AM reported seeing a distressed woman near Furzton Lake on the day that Leah went missing. Some commentators posited that these sightings could have been of someone else entirely, another young woman in emotional distress, complicating the search and timeline. The only person ever formally linked to Leah's murder is Neil Maxwell, and he died by suicide in April 2019, before charges could ever be brought. This overview encapsulates the range of scenarios considered, reflecting the family's desperation for answers and the community's search for explanations. As discussed previously, Senior Coroner Tom Osborne's Prevention of Future Deaths report following the June 2024 inquest was scathing. He called for a fundamental review of the process for monitoring sex offenders in the community and the sharing of information between all agencies, notably the police and probation service. In direct response to these findings, the probation service issued a formal apology for the failings identified and committed to recruiting 1,000 new trainee probation officers by March 2025, aiming to reduce caseloads and enhance supervision of high-risk individuals. Thames Valley Police reinforced their multi-agency public protection arrangement. Assistant Chief Constable Katie Barrow-Grint confirmed that the force had strengthened information sharing protocols and vetting for officers using the VISA database, improving the joint management of sexual and violent offenders. Beyond the local level, the case helped catalyse wider conversations. The Ministry of Justice and Her Majesty's Prison and Probation Service have publicly acknowledged the need to tighten risk assessment frameworks, ensuring missed appointments and licence breaches trigger immediate action. The guidance for multi-agency public protection arrangements are under review to mandate consistent use of offender management systems, closing gaps that previously allowed offenders like Neil Maxwell to slip through unnoticed. While full legislative reform remains pending, these measures represent the first concrete steps since Leah's inquest. They underscore a growing consensus. No medium-risk offender should evade scrutiny, and inter-agency collaboration must be seamless. For Leah's family, and for all potential victims, these changes aim to transform a system once described as woefully inadequate into one capable of safeguarding communities. On the 15th of February 2019, 19-year-old Leah Croucher vanished on her familiar walk to work in Milton Keynes. Despite an exhaustive search effort encompassing thousands of homes, hours of CCTV reviews, and multi-agency deployments, no trace of her was found until October 2022, when her remains and personal items were uncovered in a Furzton attic. Her inquest in June 2024 concluded Leah was unlawfully killed, most likely during an unwanted sexual attack, delivering long-sought closure on the matter, but not all the circumstances of her death. Leah's story seems to have been the catalyst for real change. Probation caseloads are being reduced, information sharing systems overhauled, and protocols strengthened to ensure that medium-risk offenders can no longer slip through procedural cracks. For Leah's family and community, these reforms represent hope that no other loved one will be lost under similar circumstances. But unanswered questions still linger, about the exact timeline of her final movements and how vital evidence remained hidden for years. Leah's determination and kindness touched all who knew her. May the lessons of her tragic death guide us towards a safer future and ensure that her strength endures in the changes that we make. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, every missing person deserves to be found. Like, comment, and subscribe to see more new and cold missing persons cases from the UK.